Hello and welcome to the Next Canon podcast. I'm Danny Ray, and on this podcast, we are working to recreate and reimagine the theater canon to make it more inclusive and just more representative of our current theater and modern theater community. So I'm so excited because today we have Leilani Bostock with us. Hey, Leilani.
Hi.
So Leilani uses she, her pronouns. Leilani was born in Sussex, England, and raised in Hawaii. Leilani is an actor, singer, director, and avid crafter who is passionate about telling Native stories and giving voice to the voiceless. She is currently working as a director and co-producer of the Dirty Darlings, a narrative burlesque troupe that uses striptease to tell queer stories. Also, they're amazing, so go follow them everywhere. Hello, Leilani, how are you?
Hi, I'm so good. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I'm so stoked to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too. I think it's a really interesting thing that you're doing.
I'm so stoked on it. Like every time I sit down, I'm just like jittering with like excitement because everyone has different things to say and it's amazing because everyone can have an opinion on this, you know?
Yeah, and I'm a podcast lover, so I'm just happy for more good content.
Yes.
I feel like there are so many moments where you're just walking around your life, For me, it's like the perfect cleaning soundtrack, laundry,
Yes.
just like have something going in your ears.
Makeup too. I was just listening to a podcast while I was doing my makeup earlier today. I was like,
Sure, absolutely, yeah.
that's awesome. Anyways, so how have you been theater-wise since this pandemic started?
Pretty lackluster, to be honest. I was disappointed that it all happened right after audition season. I did everything I could to work my butt off during audition season. I did the damn thing for the first time, and I was feeling really happy about that. I was cast in Pirates of Penzance, the Gilbert and Sullivan Society, and was gonna do like a callback for Seattle Shakes and all these things, but
everything just like flushed itself down the drain.
Totally. So since that's not, that's a mute point, mostly what I've been doing is our Dirty Darlings meetings. We're really consistent. We meet at least every 2 weeks. And at first we were just making sure that we were checking in with our friends, essentially, like the group are my closest friends. And so you start by just going, well, we have to see each other and see where we're at. And then we started planning like, okay, what if our season starts in October? Okay, what if our season starts in, and you push
Christmas show.
Yeah. So now we do have some a season plan for 2021, and at least enough time has passed now that we're to the point where we're like, okay, these are the accommodations we can make to make sure this happens,
Right. And there have been a lot of like burlesque shows online, like burlesque karaoke. Haven't they done quite a few?
Yeah, so has
Devil's Advocates?
Absolutely, yes. The Devil's Advocates have been doing their quantity shows, and those are I think once a month still.
That's so funny.
Yeah, they've been really committed to putting stuff out there.
We all have to just start like create however we can create, which is like what theater artists have always done, like throughout history.
I think for a while we were just like feeling really stubborn, like we'll just wait till it gets back to normal. We don't want to adapt. We'll just wait till it gets back to normal, but you have to go like, all right, but the artists who are still managing to thrive have decided like we're going to figure it out. We're going to do this virtually, and just having to have a conversation with your inner selfish ego and be like, this is okay. You can change and change back when it's available. I've been really impressed at, the kids who are figuring this out too. My niece is in Seattle.
Yeah.
And stayed with us for a couple of days while my nephew was being born. So it was like pretty urgent. And we had to manage her Zoom school. This is a few months back.
Oh my gosh.
And it was insanity. I was like trying to figure out, at one point, like the teacher says she can hear her, but Violet can't see herself. And so like doesn't know what is being seen. And it was really difficult. And she has this like art class where everybody's talking at the same time and the teacher's computer or camera wasn't flipped, so she like couldn't see what he was drawing, and she just starts breaking down in tears like, I want to do this but I don't know how,
That
and
is
it's
so
like,
hard.
it hurts you.
Entirely. Oh, they are so powerful. Oh man. Well, my first question for you, sort of like on our topic, is what does canon mean to you? Without any sort of layer on it, what does canon mean to you?
Yeah. When I was thinking about this question, I thought about how I think the canon to me were the shows that I knew, and that changed throughout my life. Um, Early on, I was like really heavily exposed to classic British musicals, because I think my dad was sort of, as a like real staunch Brit, was just trying to show us sort of his culture through what he thought was like the perfect lens. So I watched Oliver and My Fair Lady and Chitty Chitty Bang Bang like as a family for movie nights, and we would like revisit those and sing the songs, and it was like, these are the shows I know. And then in high school, I had an English teacher who kind of shared some fringe plays with us, and that really felt like, oh, this is what they're doing on the big stage, because living in Hawaii, it's just what people tell you becomes your impression of the world.
Yeah.
There's not, especially when you're young, it didn't feel like there was the accessibility, and I didn't look for it the same way, so I was reading Equus and The Beauty Queen of Lebanon and like random kind of fringe plays and going, oh, this is it. This is the big stuff. And then, of course, once I got to college, doing my own research and understanding the world of Broadway musicals that went beyond what you think you know. So I had seen Wicked, I had seen Les Mis, and then going, okay, what else is out there, and looking for the ones that really spoke to me. Sort of became my own visual canon.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love that. That's such an interesting, like, just the shows that it's like your window.
Yeah,
Which is,
exactly.
we talk about that all the time, but like you felt that so hard. You're like, oh, Equus canon.
Yeah, right. Obviously, they're doing this all the time. Like, they're just like, Daniel Radcliffe's getting naked. Like, this is big stuff. Everybody knows about this. Like, no, I didn't realize it was like actually kind of niche and controversial.
That's a huge thing too. It's like your window that you see the world through. You have like everyone has no understanding of the way that other people see it, really,
Mm-hmm.
until they start to think and ask and talk and do all of those things. That's like the most real way that you could experience the canon for you. You're like, it's everything that I know, like
Yeah,
it's
that's a little bit of like a fisheye lens of it all, but like, I think that it's about what you're exposed to and what's in your environment. And for a lot of people, that looks like the touring shows that are done. And of course, that's sort of the classic canon answer of like, it's what's done to make money, right? It's what keeps being circulated over and over. But I think for me, because I didn't have that access, it just became like, what did people expose me to?
right. And what shows scream canon to you, aside from the ones you already said, for like right now? What show are you like, this is canon, that's the one?
I think that Hamilton is obviously canon. Like, it's proven itself time and time again. It's even winning awards for its filmed version of itself. Like, I think that it's made it. Like, we don't need to argue that anymore. I think that's sort of like the big new one. There are shows that I sort of wish were more canon that I love so much, like The Color Purple, but just because I listen to it all the time doesn't mean it is actually canon.
I feel like it's canon.
I just wish it was like,
Wish it was done more.
Knows it. Yeah, I mean, it's such a hard one to do, and it did do like really well in its revival and stuff, but it was actually only on Broadway for like a year and a half.
I saw it at the International Thespian Festival when I was in high school, done by a high school, but it was like impeccable. Like, it was beautiful. And that's what, when you go to nationals, they're like, drop dead stunning like Las Vegas shows because their school's in Las Vegas.
Like we know what we have a budget.
Seriously. But it was stunning, and that was my first exposure to it. But I feel like it's canon. I'm saying it's canon.
Yeah, let's do it. I agree.
We do want it to be done more often, but there's entirely.
And then another one I think sort of coming up just in terms of what's like breaking the mold and what should start to move towards canon is Hadestown, I think.
My brother loves Hadestown.
Incredible. Just like snaps all around. Incredible. Incredible. Yes.
I can't wait to actually be able to go to the theater again. Oh my gosh.
I know. Jazz and I really miss it as like a date night. Like we would just like, what do? Oh, you go out to see a show. Whether that's a movie or a live show, you know, but just that like going out to seek that entertainment was such a like bonding joy for us who are both theater people. And
you get to like think critically about it and talk and discuss, and like that's something that I love about theater is that it sparks conversation. And like it can be you can have like your whole walk there and your whole walk back, like the like prep for it, like what do you think, or like when you're coming back you're like, oh my god, XYZ, like this piece of imagery was absolutely stunning, like when all that water fell from the sky, like
absolutely, yes, it triggers so much conversation. And then it even goes into like, how would we do that differently, and how could we apply that, or what was your favorite part and how would you make that? For us it's always, how would you make that burlesque? That's like our favorite conversation.
I love that.
We'll be like at the height of the scene and be like, if they just took off their clothes right now, you guys.
I am with you.
Then nobody would forget it.
Never.
Memorable pieces.
This piece of tension. Ooh, wouldn't it be just so good if it was more like this?
I mean, once you start looking for it, you see those moments more than you think.
Literally everywhere. Like I can't believe I knew about it before. Like I hadn't studied it, you know? So what in your canon or in any canon, what's the show that's got to go? What do you think?
Okay, my show that's got to go is the Mikado.
Okay.
It's got to go.
Tell me about it.
I was really thinking about this question, and for the most part, I kept going back to, it's not the show, it's the direction. And I kept thinking about shows that like, that's a really rough run to pull off, but if you look at it differently, if you try it again, if you gender switch, or if you colorblind cast or more intentionally cast other people of color, then it could all sort of work. And then I kept going back to the Mikado of, there's no way that this can work. Like there's no good way, because if you make it all Japanese people because it's set in a fictional Japan, then it's a parody of itself, because it's inappropriately finding these stereotypes and pulling on them, and the names themselves, are inescapably racist. And then if you make it all white people, obviously it's racist. So it's like, I can't find a way to make it work. I've thought about a lot of different ways you could try it, and it's still bad. So mine is the Mikado. It's still one of the most done Gilbert and Sullivan pieces in the US. It's done especially by like younger kids, high school and elementary students. And you're like, this isn't comedy. This is just racism.
That's like, I feel like that's a motif that keeps coming up, like in these conversations and just in my brain when I look at it. It's like the ones that I'm like, no, you shouldn't do that, is like the high school productions where they're just like totally not doing a show for their thing. But the Mikado, seriously, like there's no way, like you said.
Exactly. I was like, there's just no salvation for this. I know it was written. It was written as it was based in Japan so that you could parody England and say, look, it's a fictional place. The thing is that Japan is not a fictional place. It's a real place with real culture. So you can't just like if they had truly made up a fictional place, it would not be a problem.
Did they call it Japan and then just say it's a fictional Japan?
They called it Japan, and then I think the town is named like Tiki Poo or something. It's really that bad. It's really that bad. The characters are like Yum Yum and Coco and like Nankapu, and like they're just completely made up what an English Brit person heard when they went to Japan that one time. And then they came back and they were like, I got it. I know the language.
I'm really good with languages, so
Yeah.
we're just gonna
step aside.
Oh wow. Well, clearly I don't know this play as well as you do, and just from hearing that, like, I'm in shock, obviously. Like, what the heck?
It has a lot of classic Gilbert and Sullivan songs that we still know. Obviously, Three Little Girls and Wandering Minstrel Eye. Like, those are songs that I think that the songs taken out of context are still like appropriate for choirs or whatever, but the context of the show is that they're all Japanese. It's been historically done in yellowface for years and years, and there's no way to change that, because if they're Japanese cast, then you're making fun of yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously if it's yellowface, it's racism. So it's just
and like, if you're making fun of yourself, what's the for what purpose? Not as a real question, for what purpose?
Right. And it's not showing. I'm, you know, a little bit of a Japaneseophile. Like, I love the kawaii culture. I've been to Japan. The food is fantastic. The culture is so delight. So I want to put it on a pedestal and not put it on a pedestal and laugh at it.
Right. Seriously, that's yikes, man. Why'd they do that? Wait, so a white Brit wrote this play?
It's a Gilbert and Sullivan.
Yeah. So do they write it and then do the music, or is it like a different writer and then they do the music, or is it all the same because it's an opera?
I think it's all the same because it's an opera.
Okay.
It's technically called like a Savoy opera because it's like a mini opera. But yeah, it's an opera. So I think Gilbert and Sullivan write music and lyrics, and that is the whole show.
That's cool. Yeah, that's just like, that one's got to go for sure. Yeah. Goodbye. See you later.
Yeah.
That's yikes. And that's the whole point of this, is like raising awareness about like, oh, this song you heard, it's actually from this play that's like big no, you know?
Right. Yeah. And again, I mean, if you do your research, you educate yourself about that song, and then you go, I see that the world this song came from, and I'm gonna put it in another world, or I'm gonna, you know, use this song to highlight that, or whatever, you know? I think it's about educating yourself and then making the best decision that looks intentional and is intentional, so that you're not just a victim to a crime you don't even know you're committing, you know?
Right. On that like sort of subject, what's your favorite like adaptation? Because like we have this conversation on this podcast a lot about when to adapt and when to leave something be, like Mikado. Because like I bring it up pretty much every podcast. I'm so sorry, everyone, but like Taming of the Shrew, 10 Things I Hate About You. Like, I love 10 Things I Hate About You.
Sure.
But there's so many Shakespeare things that I'm like, I don't really know if we need to.
Sure.
You know?
If we look at a Shakespeare thing, then like, I do think She's the Man is
one of my favorite movies of
an
all
incredible movie. I mean, I've watched it at least 10 times, and it's just one of those like, yeah, I'll watch that. You know, somebody suggests it and you're like, yeah, that's a good time.
I feel like that's a perfect like sleepover with your friends type of movie for some reason, because it's fun and silly, and like putting Shakespearean level like drama into like high school seems so fitting.
Yeah.
But yeah, so your favorite, what are some of, so She's the Man, sorry.
Okay, She's the Man would definitely be a favorite. I'm trying to think of other modern adaptations. I do really love the Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and was it Claire Danes? And that, I mean, I think that's a beautiful adaptation and a beautiful realization of that show. Right. Obviously, it's not adapted to like a full point of modern language, but the modernity in like clothing, dress, and time is still evocative. What
What
I
do you
don't
think makes
know.
something like a good adaptation?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that it's about there's a balance. It's the perfect balance between honoring the original and finding ways to relate it to the now. So, not a huge fan of like going so far as to be like text bubbles, throughout it, but I think modern dress makes a huge difference because visually you go, that looks like me. Right. And a semi-modern circumstance, and then throwing in some humor to be able to like pull it back to modern day as well. I mean, I think that so much, especially Shakespeare, so much of it is comical, and we don't get that anymore because it's not funny to us, right? Making fun of the king is not funny anymore because we don't have a king. But if you find the core of that humor and you bring it to a modern adaptation, I think that speaks so much to the original intention of the show.
Right. Like if you're doing it at a high school, you make fun of the principal or something.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is
exactly
things kids do, like kids will be making fun of their principals all the time.
And then another Romeo and Juliet love is West Side Story for me as a musical, because it's just flawless music. The music is flawless. Maria fills me with so much joy. I could listen to it on a shuffle situation. I could see the scene. Like, it's just a flawless musical. I wish that obviously the movie had a little bit less brown face, but in terms of the writing and the music, I think it's fantastic.
Awesome. What show do you think needs to be pulled into the canon, like pulled in by the society at large, like this is canon?
I don't know if this answers that question, but I will talk about the favorite show the best show I've ever seen.
Yes.
This is very fringe, very specific. I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival before I went to Cornish, so I think it was the summer of 2015. It was just before we started school.
Yeah.
And I saw the Scotland theater company, like it was a home theater company in beautiful big stage, who had prepared a sort of 3-show tiny season for like the days of the Fringe Festival. I mean, we saw them every night, as well as tons of shows throughout the day. And they did a show called The Destroyed Room. And it started with 3 people on stage having a sort of candid conversation, as if it were possibly a podcast interview. It was very structured in its conversation. Somebody had a lot of questions, but it wasn't really clear that it was like an interview or something like that. It was a conversation about Jeff Wall, who's a photographer. It was a photograph of a ransacked room. It was sort of in the middle of the stage, and they were talking about this photo, and it brought about the conversation of whether I'm going to use their words, whether we take the tragedies of the modern world and neutralize it by treating them as a form of entertainment. So essentially talking about social media and how we see tragedies constantly through something like a Facebook feed, and is seeing it all the time neutralizing it for us and allowing us to become numb to that tragedy, or is it spreading awareness and allowing us to take action and learn more about what's happening around the world? And it went in 100 different directions. It was a beautiful piece. What I loved the most about it was it's the way that it treated the soundscape, the direction, essentially, I thought was just gorgeous, and I just fell in love with it, and it made me want to be a director. Paint the picture here. We have the 3 people on stage. They're debating, semi-arguing. At some points, it's heated. towards the end, as it gets more and more heated, they start to talk about this horrible footage of our youth. At the time, it was mostly about the immigrant crisis, and those like heartbreaking footages that we have of, you know, a father carrying his dead baby onto the beach, you know, from the boat that he, you know, and this Iranian prisoner being shot in the head in a cage. These just horrible images. One of the women gets so upset. It's two women and one man. One of the women gets so upset that she runs out of the room. And as soon as she runs out of the room at the end of the show, then you notice that the floor has been filling with water. The walls of their room were made with some sort of a rice paper or really thin paper. And on the tops of them, then water had been trickling down and the walls have slowly disappeared. As she runs out, she pushes over the table. The last two people look at each other and leave, and this sound that has been sort of a white noise through the whole show gets louder and louder and louder and louder until there's like unbelievably uncomfortable buzz in your ears. The show, which has been using cameras on stage the whole time, zooming in on these little pieces of the room that are happening on the actors' feet moving and splashing in the water throughout the thing, and they're completely oblivious to it, but it's like happening around them. They suddenly sort of move up to the wall, which projects the wall, which is projecting these horrible images that we've tried to scroll past so many times. All of a sudden, you've absorbed these images. You've like forced yourself to sit through this footage of people around the world dying and needing help and us not doing a goddamn thing. And you realize that we're in the destroyed room we were talking about in the first place. And it's just one of those pieces where you're like, how does everybody not know this? It was beautiful and so well done, and just makes me so emotional even thinking about it. And it was years ago, and wow.
I just got chills all over my body.
It was a fantastic
Oh my
show.
God. And that was at the Edinburgh Film Festival? Or Film Festival.
Fringe Festival.
I was like, I knew there was an F somewhere in that. Oh my God. What was it called again?
It was called The Destroyed Room. And if you look up, if you're curious, you can Google The Destroyed Room, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, and it will pop up.
Oh my gosh. That's insane, dude. And then, so you're in that room. Is the water on your feet too?
No, it's only on the stage.
Okay.
But there are like screens. There are large screens that are projecting what the cameras on stage are seeing. So you're sort of aware of like things happening. And I remember my dad going, look at the water. Do you see there's water? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? What do you mean there's water on stage? And he was like, look, didn't you see her foot drip? And I was like, what? And then you start looking at it and you're like, oh my God, they're stepping in water. What's happening?
Oh God. Imagine how many costumes they need to have if they're doing multiple shows.
Well, at least they're only doing one though, right?
I guess
they only do that one show at night. They did a couple other pieces that were all really good, but that was my favorite.
Oh, that's so impressive. What the heck? The thought that goes into it.
It's a generative theater company, and it just like, it spoke to me on so many levels, because every time I come back to that show, I'm like, that's possible, you guys. It's possible for us to make that big of a statement, for it to be that like, it reaches that wide of an audience, you know? I feel like sometimes there's a hard thing that you have to play with as an artist and as a creator of, I want to make this like really political, strong piece, but it scares so many people off. You know, not everybody sees theater as political. A lot of people see it as escapism. And you have to figure out a way to draw them in with escapism and like hit them on the ass with politics as they walk out the door, you know?
Yes.
Like that's totally what it did to me, and that's how I try to think about the shows I create now.
Yeah, absolutely. That like when you see shows like that and like you said it made you want to be a director, it's like that picks out the people who want to build the creative thing, and then the people that want to be in it, or the people that are like, no, I'm over here in Chicago, leave me alone.
Yeah,
Like I feel like
absolutely.
it divides the who wants to do what really well to see like amazing
Yeah,
shows like
what was
that.
your what was your favorite part of that? Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I always think about it too as a sort of director's inspiration of let's do more. I'm a more is more person, not a less is more person.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Look at your beautiful background.
I just feel like we have all of the shows that have ever happened before us, all of the technology that nobody has ever had before, and this method of communication. I mean, look at us right now. Like you have to utilize so many more things at your disposal. And all the artists who are like soundscape artists should be brought onto your team, and you should go, what can you do, because it can make your whole show, you know.
Seriously.
Good lighting makes or breaks a show, and I think you have to recognize that now.
100%.
Yeah.
And like all of the technical theater folks who are figuring everything out for the actors who are like, what do I do? Like even when it's live, that's still happening. We just don't see it as often because it's like they move so quickly and so quietly.
Oh my gosh, I can't do that job. That's why we like had our technical requirement to be like, I don't want to do that job. And so I have to be so appreciative of the people who want to do that job, because like I don't know why you would want to.
But then they're like,
apparently
I don't know
people
why
really,
you
really love it.
they're like, I don't know why you want to be on stage. Why would
I
you
know.
ever do that? So funny how people like there's always someone that loves to do the thing that you hate to do. You
Exactly.
know?
My my mom would always say to us, this sounds discouraging. Strangely, it always felt encouraging. My mom would always say to us, you'll never be the best. There's always somebody who will be better than you at whatever it is you're trying to do. She wasn't raising Olympians, okay? And it just sort of like puts the world in perspective that a lot of people are trying to do the same thing, and don't be too proud not to learn from them.
Right. And don't like, it's not about not expecting yourself to be great. It's saying that like you can be absolutely incredible and still have places to go, you know, like
That's it. Totally.
that's such a funny thing because the society tells you that moms and dads and parents have to just be like, go Jimmy, you can do
You'll be
it.
the president. My mom's
Yeah.
like, you're not gonna be the fucking president. Calm yourself. Put life into perspective here. Okay.
Find something you want to do and then
Yeah.
go do that.
Do it. Just do it. Just have fun.
You're telling me you want to be the president? I don't know about that.
It's a lofty goal. It is.
And it's a really big job. Like everyone just, if they weren't gray to start with, they go gray in the first 4 years. You know what I
Totally.
mean?
And I don't know how to play golf, so I think that would really put me at a disadvantage.
I mean, you could be like Obama and just say like, I want a basketball court, give it to me now.
Yeah. In true lesbian fashion, Jazz and I were watching The L Word last night, and they name drop Kamala Harris. This is the next generation L Word. Okay, this is the fancy, popular, modern one.
I love.
And they name drop Kamala Harris as somebody who they could have as a guest on their like TV show, like, and I was like, you're not gonna get her. She's a vice president of the United freaking States, guys. And it was such a cool moment just to say that out loud.
I know. Every time like I didn't know her very much before this, obviously before like this run. And every time I heard her speak right up towards the election, I was just like about to like implode. I was like, this is so exciting. This is literally so exciting. What the heck? And it's like seeing someone who's, number one, she's really like young. like,
Yeah.
like for
Oh
a
my God, yeah.
politician, like, and she's already done like a lot of things obviously in her career to like make her eligible.
I think I was kind of on the fence about her until I listened to a podcast where I think it was if I remember correctly, it was the Smartless podcast, and they had her as a guest, and she talked a little bit about water rights. And I was like, yep, all about that. Yep. Anybody who starts talking about like native water rights, I'm like, yes, it is such an important and loaded topic right now for a politician to even bring up so casually. So
entirely. Is there a show right now that you want to promote?
Yeah, well, no, I'm gonna promote.
Okay.
I have not been watching a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I just finished the TV docuseries The Vow. And that was very good, especially if you're into culty docuseries. That was a good one. It was just a really solid, interesting, like, I gotta turn that on again kind of watch. Also, I consumed Bridgerton very quickly, which was an excellent TV show. Nice work, Shonda Rhimes. Written by a woman, directed by a woman, based on a book written by a woman. I was just like, yes, the women. And it, like, you could feel that point of view when you watched it. And that made it, like, really fun to watch. And then the other thing I'm just going to promote is Instagrams. So the Dirty Darlings Presents is our burlesque Instagram. And we do have some nice, fun stuff coming. Looking into February, we have a big announcement to make. And then through the 2021 season, we're putting together some really exciting stuff. We've, ever since our senior thesis project of Pixie Dust and Pasties, our narrative burlesque Peter Pan. We've just been really obsessed with fairy tales and how can we look at fairy tales, an adaptation, if you will, queer them, find something familiar about them, find something completely different that nobody else has ever thought about with them, and make somebody take off their clothes. So that's been a new obsession, and we have some good stuff coming in that world.
I'm so excited.
The thing I'd promote is my own new Instagram. I made a new Instagram for myself at Kepoikai Creations. Kepoikai is my middle name. A lot of people have been asking. It's my middle name. That's why it's that name.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it means crest of a wave.
Oh, hey, that's whoa, there's a word for that, and I love that.
Yeah, right. And I paint and craft and do fun things with all my free time. And then I also do a lot of cooking. I'm so into my home cooking world. I watch a lot of cooking shows. I read a lot of cooking books, and I'm just sort of self-taught and have fun. So check that out.
I watch it, just so everyone knows. I follow that Instagram and I watch all of the stories and I adore it. I always watch you cook things. I watched the fried rice one the other day. It's like, that's incredible. I was like, maybe Leigh should like make a shopping list so that we can cook with her.
Oh, yeah. I'm always like, I don't know. I love that advice. I will totally do that. I sort of just do it for fun every now and then, and I make something good enough that I'm like, yeah, somebody else could look at that. Jazz has just been my audience of one for a little too long. I'm like, let's expand, guys.
That's a very supportive audience of one.
Oh, absolutely. She's my number one taste tester. Nobody knows food like her, man. She'll just taste something and she'll goes like, I think that needs a little bit of lemongrass. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I like add it and I'm like, that made the dish. Who knew?
Oh my God. Full circle. Oh, that's so cute. My very last question, that's a sneaky question, is who would you like to see on this podcast?
Oh, good question. I will recommend a POC artist like myself, my wonderful friend, Michaela Gonzalez. She is a dancer. She's a burlesque artist. And she's been doing lots of stuff during quarantine. I don't know how she does it. I don't know how she pulls it off, but she manages to. She's been in photo shoots and online shows, and she just puts her art first always, and I recommend her.
Yes, awesome. Oh, that would be really fun, and having a dancer perspective too.
Yeah, I don't know what her knowledge would be about some of these questions because she has a completely different look at it, but you know, that's my recommendation.
It's worth asking, you
Sure.
know?
Maybe it's just a completely different point of view.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast, Leilani.
Of course. Thanks for having me, Danny.
I am so grateful that you wanted to come and play and chat with me. Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for listening this long in the podcast. We love it. We appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you next time. Bye.